Mr. Stacy is going to come to us with a human resources update,
All right,
and
thank
we're
you.
excited to see about some of the changes in his department.
Yes, we appreciate it, Dr. Little and board. There's been a lot of changes that have happened this past year in human resources. If you look up there, you'll see a lot of new faces. We grew enough that we had to go across the hall. So that opened up a little bit of a space in our main part of our office, and you'll see we repurposed that so that we have a place for people to sit now when they come into HR. Dr. Little yelled at us last year because we had substitute teachers sitting out in the hall, and he said, I give you all this space down there, and you got people sitting out there waiting in the hall. So we've moved them into the office now, so we look a little bit more professional. So we're real excited about that. We got off to a great start. If you see that big number there, 2031, that's not my retirement year. That could be more than about half the followers that Dr. Little has on Twitter. We were checking, he's got 3,882 followers. It's twice as many Instagram followers that Lexington One has, because they're 1,204. It's 2,030 more friends than Mike Stacy has on Facebook. But what that really represents is the number of employment actions that we had to do this year to start the school year. That includes new hires, transfers, exits, substitute teachers, adjunct coaches, and adjunct employees. If you look at the breakdown, and this doesn't include substitutes and adjunct, but if you look at the breakdown, you'll see how many we've hired, certified support, new hires, exits, and transfers. The number in parentheses on those top two columns are the numbers that we had last year. So you can see how it relates to last year. We had a record year as far as hiring new employees. Last year, Devonna worked diligently with our new teachers, and Kimberly Freeman helped her again Kimberly Freeman helped last year as well. But we had our Induction Teacher Institute. It's a week-long institute for our new teachers to the district. Gives them an opportunity to get acclimated to how we do business in Lexington One. We had 100 of 116 new teachers participate. We had the mentors come in and give support on one day. And then one day we partnered with the Summer Institute, which is our summer learning program for all of our teachers. And we had over 600 participants at River Bluff High School. So that's been a huge success. I don't know why I keep doing that. This year we started, I told you in the workshop, we talked about pulse surveys. And so we did a recruitment pulse survey. And if you look at this is how people make contact with us. These are new hires to the district. And if you look at it, the big thing that sticks out is community connections, which is 22.9%, and word of mouth, which is 28.9%, which if you add those two together, it's about 51%. And the reason we did that is we want to know, how we can move forward. So Kimberly Scott looked at that, and she jumped on the idea that really it is about making connections with our local people. And so she has already reached out to the Teacher Leadership Council to set up to talk to our teacher leaders within the district to see how they can be a part of this recruitment process for our new hires for next year. She's already got a meeting scheduled. And then we've also looked at a strategic plan that builds on relationships. And so she's got scheduled celebrations for student teachers. Now, she did this last year, but she's going to continue that again this year. We're rethinking our in-district recruitment fair. A lot of times when we go to other fairs, what they will do is they'll have like an hour and a half of meet and greet so that teachers can come in and meet administrative teams, or at a state conference to meet the people within the district. But she's going to set it up so they can meet the administrative teams at each of the schools, and then the schools can then schedule their own interviews for that afternoon. So it's going to give the people that are coming to the fair an opportunity to get in touch with a lot more of our administrative teams. the way it has been in the past, they really got an opportunity to meet just one team. So we think that's going to really grow that. She's already reached out to our colleges and universities for support. Now, I thought I've done a pretty good job of screening people before they come to HR. I was very disappointed when I saw her hugging that thing. I don't know what that thing is up on that left-hand corner, but she actually has that picture in her office now, and she's a Carolina graduate. That's what I don't understand. But we're pretty excited about these opportunities that we've put up as far as building relationships. The second part of our strategic plan is going out beyond our borders. As I told you earlier, there is a teacher shortage in South Carolina. I went to a program, I guess, last year at the University of South Carolina, and there was somebody from the national level, and she spoke, and she told us that there wasn't a national teacher shortage. So we're going to take her on her word, and we've bought Frontline Recruiting and Hiring. It's a new application system, but a part of that is these job boards. So we'll have teacherteacher.com and K-12 JobSpot. And the goal there is to try to attract people to South Carolina and then to Lexington 1. And so when they go on teacherteacher.com from another state, Kimberly's working with a group to think about doing retargeting ads. And you know how the internet works, and they can actually know what you've been visiting, and then, I don't know, there's something in that computer that knows all this stuff. They can actually send an ad back to somebody in, say, Arizona, and talk to them about Lexington School District 1. So we're in the process now of investigating how much that would cost, and hopefully be able to put those in play by this coming spring during the recruiting system. We started Frontline June 25th. That's when we went totally live. And by the 1st of August, we already had 1,200 hits. So we really think that this is a real possibility. Another thing beyond our borders is the capped exempt status for international teachers. Kimberly Freeman has worked with our Teresa Blankenship and our attorneys to get us that exempt status. The benefit of that, it's a little costly, but the benefit of that is that we get international teachers, and historically they've come through some program like EPI, some recruiting service. We get them here and they can only stay here for 3 to 5 years. By the time we get them assimilated to our culture in the United States, we got to send them back. If we're able to provide the H-1B visas for them, we can keep them here. So long term, it's going to be a huge benefit for us. And then we're also using social media to try to recruit outside the state. Other things, we've looked at some other types of recruitment events. Again, the teacher recruitment fair. We attend state and national recruitment fairs. The Pulse survey gives us an indication of which fairs are working for us and which ones might not be, so that we can be more targeted. We know that, for example, Ohio State is a great place to go to look for Chinese teachers. And so that's a big need in our district. And so we've been successful there twice, pulling in some Chinese teachers from that area. So that's why we get that information. Another thing that we captured as one of our significant wins for the year was this idea of the Code of Excellence. It incorporates our community's ethical philosophy and employee behavior expectations into a process for all our employees and supervisors to follow. We began this process last year. We had a committee of stakeholders. We had district level supervisors. Ms. Knight participated. We had building level administrators. We had teachers groups to review the expectations that we have for employees and identify 11 key, I don't know why I can't make this happen one at a time, but 11 key standards that we expect, like demonstrate respect and integrity when interacting with students, parents, staff, community members, and any other stakeholders. So they're very simple, common sense kinds of things that we expect of all our employees. There's a rubric that goes with this, and we were talking about it earlier, it's sort of like setting boundaries. And if you don't continue to hold people to a certain expectation, sometimes they fluctuate from that a little bit, and we'd like to intervene at a very low level and not make it a major deal when it happens. And so we're excited about this process. We trained on it this summer. We actually did some practice runs in the spring, and it's in full implementation starting this coming year. So hopefully next year I can report to you that we had absolutely no issues in HR. That would be awesome. One other thing that we've done that we think, we talked about significant wins in HR and really talked about our strategic plan, and we talked about leadership and how important leadership is to this district. And one of Dr. Little's big initiatives was that, we've got a wealth of talent in Lexington School District 1. And so we really need to tap that talent. And so we started a new process for hiring administrators. We do an all-call for assistant principals. That will start again in October. By the end of January, February, that timeline, we will have probably another 15 or 20 new APs. These are people that are aspiring to be assistant principals that have gone through a rigorous interview process, and we will have tapped them as the next ones to move forward. We do training with the assistant principals. Like I said, if you get into the talent pool, you're not identified as a principal for the next year. We have ongoing training for those assistant principal candidates to try to get them to be better leaders, give them other leadership opportunities. The huge benefit of this is that when we're hiring leaders, many of our leaders that come within the district, we don't have to spend a lot of time. It's the same thing as acclimating international teachers to our district or to our country. It's the same thing as you hire someone from within outside the district, you've got to get them on board with the strategic plan. They haven't been a part of that whole process. It doesn't mean they can't get on board, but you got to spend some time training them and getting them on board with everyone else. If they come from within our district, you save a lot of time because they're already a part of what we do. So it's a real attribute to have that as a part of our plan. And if you look at the results, 3 years ago, we hired 36% of our administrators came from within the district of the new hires. Over the last 2 years, 82% of those have come from within the district. So this has really worked well for us. The last thing I want to mention is that we've spent a lot of time in HR talking about evaluations. The state has adopted a new teacher evaluation system called the 4.0 rubric. That rubric is all about feedback. It's about a culture of feedback for growth. And so we've modified our assistant principal evaluations to include that. We're looking at all of our support staff evaluations, and we talk about strengths and areas of growth, and we're going to try to grow that into like all our district level personnel evaluations. Everything will be about talking about growth because we can all grow. And we really feel like that's going to change the lens with regards to evaluation and make it more of a positive interaction versus a gotcha kind of deal. Any questions? They told me I had to talk really, really fast.
You did good. Okay. All right. Ms. Smith has a question.
It's not really with what you're talking about, but can you give us an update on where we are with the bus driver hires?
With the bus driver hires.
Do we have all the bus drivers' positions filled, or?
I'm going to let Mr. Caldwell
Okay,
address.
I'm sorry, I thought that was.
No, we do not have them all filled. I don't have the numbers with me. We do have some folks in the pipeline now, and there's training coming up again for a new group, I think, next week. That may have gotten adjusted because of Florence. But keep in mind, once we do get recruits, it takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get them ready to get behind the wheel. So even though we can attract applicants, they have to go through the process, and it takes several weeks. So.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Stacy.